Good morning, everybody. It's the Celtic Way Daily Briefing live on Wednesday. And I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by Sean Martin. Sean, how are you?
Not bad, Tony. Yourself?
Yep, the international break has kind of come and gone. A couple of good results for Scotland. We'll maybe talk about Callum McGregor's performances in those games later. But I think everybody's breathing a collective sigh of relief because they just want their club football fixed back, and it returns this weekend. You looking forward to that?
I am. Aye. I mean, international football it's a welcome break for some. For others, it's just a waiting game until Celtic start playing again. So that will be coming on Saturday, not long now.
And it's Ross County at home on Saturday for Celtic.
Yep.
Now, there could be many permutations in that one, but the biggest one will be probably to a lot of Celtic supporters will want to see some of their new signings. Maybe see if Scales plays, Jota plays, Giakoumakis and Carter Vickers. I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Celtic supporter.
I think so. I mean, there's plenty of new summer signings throughout the window. The deadline day ones are obviously who the focus are on just now. Everybody wants to see what they can bring, and I don't know. I mean, I suppose it depends what Ange's seen the past few days while others have been away, as to how many, if any, start on Saturday.
And with international break comes the pressure of sending players away. A big one for Celtic last night. Kyogo gone down, clutching his knee, and every Celtic supporter has that collective sharp intake of breath, I think you would call it, Sean, and followed by the "oh no!" So I imagine there will be some kind of prognosis and news update today, but here's hoping he's all right, eh?
Hope so. I mean, it wasn't, as far as I'm aware, it wasn't an impact injury because nobody was near him. And that is worrying when you get told that. But then, if you're looking for a silver lining, he limped off, he didn't get stretchered off, and he's also been active on his social media since then. He tweeted out to celebrate the fact that Japan won. So I would like to think that's a positive sign, all things considered. He didn't mention his injury or anything else. But it will certainly be front and centre in the minds of the Celtic fans until either that team is announced on Saturday or until the club provide an update before then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would imagine there'll be an update on Kyogo this morning, but it just shows you the impact he's had, Sean, in such a short space of time where there was like a collective mourning on Twitter last night. It was kind of, oh no, please be all right, and I guess, he's had a major, he's had a major effect on the Celtic fans. They just kind of love him now, don't they?
Aye, and rightly so. I mean, what a start to his career at Celtic. I think the fact that he's only played a handful of games still, maybe slightly more than that, and everybody cares so much that he's potentially injured and he's out for a game against Ross County or beyond, etc. I think suggests how well, how much people have taken him and how well he's played as well. So,
and obviously we're hoping for good news, but it could be, even if he does rest him for this game or whatever, it could be a chance to see the likes of Giakoumakis, see what he brings to the table.
I think so. I mean, as you say, it could be if Kyogo misses out, he might start anyway. If Kyogo is to miss that game, then I wouldn't be surprised to see Giakoumakis go straight in, given Ayeti's not really been trusted much yet under Ange. Say County have big physical defenders like Cole Donaldson and Alex Iacovitti, so Giakoumakis might enjoy that battle, given what we've read and seen of him. But albeit on that Parkhead pitch, I think I'd rather have seen Kyogo trying to deal with Kyogo's movement rather than a big physical battle. But it could be an avenue straight in the team for him.
Well, I think a lot of Celtic supporters will be joining in collective prayer and hoping that he's all right and praying to whatever God they follow. I remember the comedian Dave Allen once said, "May your God go with you, but not to the football." So, but yeah, they'll be praying for some good news on that, and I guess everybody at the Celtic Way hopes there's good news on that too. But as you say, maybe a chance on Saturday with Ross County being the opposition to see the likes of. I mean, I know Jota spoke yesterday to the press as well, and he was talking about being at a Benfica game and in the past against Celtic, and he was given a Celtic scarf by kind-hearted Celtic supporters, which kind of puts Celtic in his psyche. So he seems to be delighted to be here, and I think that's an intriguing one. Everyone wants to see what he'll bring to the table.
I think so. I think, as I've said a couple of times, his youth career, I realise you can't base it on youth career because it's all a different ball game entirely, playing at senior level. But the guy obviously had or has some talent, and you would like to hope that Celtic are the team to unlock that potential. Whether it's straight away against Ross County, I don't know. You've also got to take into consideration that James Forrest is reportedly back training. So if he is ready to play, you would think he'd be ahead of Jota in the pecking order for the weekend. Abada, again, you would think he'd probably still start because he's been probably first choice as it stands just now. Not mostly, but that may be unfair. Not mostly because of injuries, but the fact that certainly people like Forrest have been injured. Abada has been essentially the first choice winger so far this season. He's done well. So I think a lot would depend on Forrest's fitness as to whether Jota starts on Saturday for me.
And Cameron Carter-Vickers, now Celtic fans have been crying out for a centre-back for a long, long time. Do you see him coming in, or do you see these guys just being eased in gently? Or is this going to do it, do you think?
I think they'll be eased in. I think with Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think we'll just have to wait and see just now. I mean, he had an ankle injury recently as well, so that'll probably factor into how quickly he plays. I think what will also factor in is the fact that Welsh has been playing well, and Starfelt, we spoke about it after the game, despite the fact they lost, Starfelt probably had his best game in a Celtic top against Rangers. So I'm not sure that Ange will be changing that central defence just yet. And I know that when he was, I think he was an Australia manager, certainly one of his previous jobs, he had commented that he feels like he can rotate further forward more than he can rotate at the back, particularly central defence. With the system that he plays, almost that familiarity of central defensive partnerships is key. So I don't know how much he'll be rotating that. And right now, I think, given that he had an injury as well, I think Carter-Vickers might have to bide his time a wee bit to get in there.
Yep, and I'm of the opinion that, not a lot's broken in the Celtic team at the minute, and maybe Ange might feel that way as well, not wanting to make too many changes, try and get some continuity. The two home games in the league that they've played, they've blown the opposition away. You know what I mean? So he'll want to keep that home record up, certainly, but I guess it's the Celtic supporters that will want to see the new boys, isn't it, more than anything else?
Aye, I mean, and that's only natural when there's new signings there, especially ones such as Jota that's clearly got excitement attached to him. But I tend to agree with you. I think, albeit they lost the last game, they've lost 2 in a row now actually, but albeit the AZ game had the caveat that it was a kind of resolute performance that got them into the Europa League group stages. The Rangers game had the caveat that they did create enough to win it. So I don't really see them making wholesale changes unless it's enforced by injury. I think that's not to say you can expect another 6-0. I don't think you can go into a game expecting a 6-0, but certainly on the bigger pitch with the players that should be available, I don't see why there would be many changes to the starting lineup and maybe ease in some of the new signings off the bench and in the games to come.
Speaking of Celtic players, we touched upon at the top of the broadcast, Callum McGregor, he's just superhuman, isn't he? You're running out of superlatives to describe Callum McGregor. He was absolutely immense against Austria last night. The boy is a baller. He can play football.
I think that's without a doubt. I mean, I sat here on Monday with Andy and Alison, and as usual, talked McGregor right up in terms of his importance, not just to Celtic but to Scotland as well, which I think sometimes gets underrated. And I think he once again proved us right against Austria. And as is their want, people were making a bit of a mountain out of a molehill about him saying, like, before the game, it wasn't a must win, it was a must not lose, like ignoring the fact that immediately before that he said he wanted to win the game. I think that anyone even entertained the notion that Callum McGregor, of all people, might not have had a winning mentality was just ludicrous anyway. But by going and winning in Austria and putting in another very good display, I think it just solidified his standing for me. Although I would say more importantly for Celtic is that he's come through another international break unscathed, as far as we can tell.
And that's the big thing, isn't it? You only need to look at what's happened to Kyogo. Again, we don't know the prognosis. We'll probably get some definitive today with Kyogo. But, I mean, McGregor just seems to play and play and play, and touchwood never gets affected, never gets injured.
Touchwood is correct, because I've mentioned it a few times. I live in fear when he gets if he gets injured. just because of the way that he plays, not because we haven't got other midfielders that can step in. Just the manner in which he plays, I just don't think can be replicated by anyone that Celtic have so far. You wrote an article on his importance the other day as well. He's kind of building his own legacy as a captain already and stuff. And I think all of it is true. I don't think it's hyperbole at all to stress how important it is to Celtic at this moment in time.
Would you expect to see James McCarthy at all on Saturday, Sean?
It depends on how ready he is, I suppose. If he is in the squad, I would probably expect to see him on the pitch at some point because he needs to get those minutes into his legs, and the sooner the better, because he will need to play a significant amount of minutes as it stands this season, or certainly until January anyway, till more reinforcements comes in. I would like to think that you would see him on Saturday in some capacity.
Because I was also thinking of the Europa League games coming up as well. I think a player like that could be vital for Celtic in those games too.
I agree. I think probably one of Rogic or Turnbull won't start in a lot of those Europa League games because of the nature of the way that the games would probably be expected to play out. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that would be maybe where McCarthy could come in and do the job, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was specifically thinking of the away ties, especially in Germany and Spain. Mm-hmm. If he's got a level of fitness that he might, fancy him in there, to be protector more than anything else,
I think so. I think that's definitely got merit. You could also say Sorrow could play that role, even Beaton could play that role, but I would be intrigued to see what McCarthy brings to it. He brings a wee bit more of a physicality than Beaton, you would say. And maybe be unfair to Sorrow, but slightly more composure on the ball than with McCarthy than Sorrow possibly as well. But these players are still gelling with each other. The one, as we've just mentioned, the one constant will be Callum McGregor. Whether he plays like I suspect he will on Saturday as a single pivot, single defensive midfielder, with defensive in all but name, if you know what I mean, because he's really still very much attacking, getting the play going, taking it, everything running through him, or whether there's someone slightly either alongside him or slightly deeper than him, which would probably be McCarthy, I think, in most people's ideal lineups. McGregor will still be that constant, that key cog in the middle.
The great thing about the international break, as you said, it has pros and cons, but Ange just had a few more days to work with the squad. The guys that came in and have got a chance to, apart from the ones on international duty, but he's had a chance to do what he does best, and that's be a manager on the training pitch, and that can be invaluable at times to, especially a club like Celtic who are, rebuilding and trying to, I hate using the word transitioning, but they kind of are, but just getting that camaraderie as well around the place.
No, I agree with you. I think, as I've said, like the lineup probably, if any of the new signings are to go in on Saturday, it probably depends what he's seen from them the past few days. All right, others will have been away, but they haven't. They've been there, and I think it's important what you're saying. All right, maybe not use the term transition, but nonetheless, they're still gelling. They're still learning his system. And a few of the players and Ange himself have mentioned over the past few weeks that the schedule has been such that they've not really had all that much time on the training pitch to really put it into practice in terms of physically with the ball. A lot of it's been video analysis because the schedule's just that hectic. So I think any time he can get with them on that training pitch is beneficial at this early stage because he's still only 3 months into his tenure.
Yeah, I mean that's the benefit that I viewed from the international break for Ange. He has time to get minutes into guys in the training pitch, and he's very hands-on. It seems to be that's what he likes doing. The press duties and all that are, he does it, but he's a training ground manager. He's a technical area manager. That's what he loves, the actual football side of it. That's what comes across to me anyway.
I mean, the club put out that great mic'd up session at the start. I mean, God knows it's maybe been done to death now. I'd done an article on it last week, just revisiting it, just kind of showing that they have taken on the principles. We've got another column up from Monday, looking at 3 goals that they've scored that clearly identify that they've obviously put them in practice as well. And you can see the way that he was approaching even that early session, how adamant he was that he wanted to instill what his philosophy is early and often, and get it ingrained into their heads. And I think so far everybody would agree that there's progress towards that. He will say himself that there's still a long way to go in terms of doing it consistently every single game when the pressure's on, all of that. but I think the progress towards that in 3 months has been staggering.
For those wondering, that's a Roy the Rovers top that's hanging up behind a 1981 vintage Gola jersey eBay purchase. I forgot it was there. I just happened to clock it again. So yeah, that's what that is. But yeah, I mean, that there's the Celtic supporters they are kind of confident and hopeful and optimistic moving forward. Sean, do you share that from what you've seen so far? I know it's very early days, but they have brought in new players in the transfer window. They have had a couple of good results, a couple of bad results. They are in the Europa League group stages, so there is plenty to be enthused about and be positive about, isn't there?
I definitely think so. I mean, I'd done a 3-month report card of his tenure so far, and I felt it right to split the sections between performances and results, because as you've pointed out a few times, 2 league losses from the opening 4 games isn't that great. It's not good. Like, there's no other way to put it like that.
Yeah.
But I felt it was important to split it between performances and results, because I do think that there's been definite progress in performance. I think you can see what he's trying to instill. I think you can see how well the players are taking it on, even at this early juncture. I also give him an A for media handling, and as much as you were saying he likes the training ground more, I think he's superb value when he deals with the media. The only thing, and I know you can't really suppose it shouldn't really be on his report card as much as the club's, but I still think they lack depth despite the kind of 12 new signings. I think that's unavoidable. But as I say, the qualifier of that is look to January and make sure that the summer window was just like step 1 on the road, and make sure they take the second step in January for the recruitment side, the way that he's gone about the business in the first 3 months.
He has hinted at that, hasn't he, that in January he's going to go back into two markets where he got Kyogo, so that would suggest to you that he might be going to the J League and elsewhere to bring in new players, because obviously the J League finishes then, isn't it, as well? So easy to bring them across, and also to give them that bedding in for the following season in the Champions League qualifier. So I think that's all in his mind, isn't it?
I would think certainly, and he obviously knows that league better than any of us. But I don't see the problem. I mean, you've seen some people comment, no, he's signed Kyogo, that's a fair amount of money. He's not going to be able to cope with it physically over here. And look at the way he started. There's absolutely nothing to say that he shouldn't be getting into that market. I think he definitely should be. He should be exploiting that knowledge that he's got that other people in Scottish football simply won't have. And that will be to Celtic's benefit, you would hope. I think sorry, no, I was just going to say the Champions League qualifiers, you would like to think there won't be any qualifiers for Celtic. But they do have to operate on the basis that there very well might be. I understand that as well.
And you talked about that knowledge and understanding on the basis of Kyogo signing alone. You'd be quite right to trust the manager's judgment now.
Oh, I think so. He knows what he wants. He definitely knows what he needs for that system. It's not like he's coming in here and he's trying to implement a 4-4-2 that he's never played, and he wants 2 big strikers even though he's never used them before and all that. He's playing a system that he has full belief in, the players have bought into, and he knows what he requires for that to be effective. Right away, he says he wanted the money for Kyogo, and I think if anybody, except for Callum McGregor so far, embodies the way that he wants the team to play, especially going forward, I think it is Kyogo. You can see already how well he fits with the way that the manager wants the team to play. So I think you're spot on. I think they have got to trust his judgment when it comes to the J League.
Well, we'll see what transpires at the weekend. We return to domestic football. Lots of hurrahs around the country from people who maybe international football's not their bag. But as always, every day we'll be on here talking and discussing all things Celtic. And you can subscribe for the first 2 months for $2.99 and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. I've been Tony Haggerty. That's been Sean Martin. Thanks all for tuning in. Cheers, Sean, your contribution. Appreciate that.
Cheers, Tony.